Good afternoon and welcome to Oneburg and the Black and Gold Three Rivers podcast. I am your host, Ed Troup. On this special edition, it's Wednesday, February 14th, Valentine's Day. For all you Yinzers out there that say Valentine's, it's Valentine's Day, right? But maybe if you're in southwestern Pennsylvania, you say Valentine's. Either way, happy Valentine's Day to everybody out there. Joining me, my partner, Brian Carruthers, on the Three Rivers podcast. And Brian, what do you say? Do you say Valentine's or Valentine's?
Well, that's a great question, Ed. Since I went to kindergarten, elementary school, high school, and a degree at Point Park College, now Point Park University, I just say how it is correctly written, which is Valentine's.
So
I don't know where the M came from, but the first person, interestingly enough, that I ever heard say Happy Valentine's Day is you.
That's right.
You're the OG Yinzer, baby.
But that's a Pittsburgh East thing, right? Valentine's instead of Tines, I think. I don't know.
I think that is. I think Valentine's is definitely a Yinzer thing. I've never heard it anywhere, and Washington and downtown, all those things are uniquely Yinzer. But the people who say Valentine's, I mean,
sounds ridiculous.
You're the hardcore of the hardcore. You're the 1%.
Sounds ridiculous, right? Speaking of ridiculous, what did you think of the Super Bowl this past Sunday, man? The Chiefs come out with a 25-22 victory in overtime. I thought they were going to let the final 5 seconds roll off, and we were going to go to a historic second overtime in Super Bowl history. But Mahomes, the big touchdown pass to Hardman at the end, and the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 58 goes to Kansas City, their third Super Bowl in the last 4 or 5 years. Pretty incredible what they're doing in Kansas City.
As a Yinzer, I thought, let's keep the 49ers away from tying the Steelers. I think it was like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't see what's going to slow down Kansas City here in the next 5 years. I mean, Mahomes is still a very young man. He has a long contract with Kansas City. Andy Reid said pregame he has no plans to retire. Travis Kelce might have a few more years left, depending on his billionaire girlfriend, Taylor Swift. If she wants him out of the game, we'll see what happens there. But, man, is there any slowing down with a dominant quarterback and a dominant head coach? I don't think.
No, Andy Reid has really steered that ship in the right direction down there with all the different personalities. What did you think of the Travis Kelce blow up on the sideline running into Andy Reid? Almost knocked him over. And Andy Reid's a pretty big guy, right? I would think.
Well, he has a new hip. I guess they were saying in the postgame he has a new hip. The whole show doesn't have to be Travis Kelce doing it. I think that the NFL, for everything good that Taylor Swift has brought to the NFL and all the love and end racism, it just takes us, and domestic violence, and wear our pink for breast cancer awareness. The NFL, if you noticed, on the sidelines during the game on Sunday, have referees in black jackets that specifically were there to make sure fights didn't break out amongst these monsters who were playing the game. I get it. I think the NFL dodged a bullet because meme generation took over, Travis Kelce yelling at Andy Reid. But I'm sorry, he looks like a 300-pound Neanderthal losing his mind, who weeks before threw his helmet like a crazy person, screams like a crazy person, and now he's so fired up about the game that he's going to knock an 80-year-old guy on the ground and scream in his face. The NFL almost did everything perfect on Sunday. They just now have to have somebody on the sideline to make sure that the general audience and the 160 million people who watch don't see something they never thought was going to happen. A player attack his own coach. I thought it was bad form. It looks bad. It's CTE culture. And I wonder how long the Taylor Swift brand will stick around with Travis if he's going to be an absolute lunatic.
Yeah, it was not a good look at all, I thought, for Travis Kelce. The NFL, as you said, on its biggest stage. One thing is, I don't care what level of sport, whatever sport it is, or whatever level of sport, you're playing from youth all the way through high school, college, or professional. Anytime you go after your coach, right or wrong, not a good look, not a good thing. I don't care who you are or what level you're at. Just not a good look. And I think you bring up a good point too. I mean, and Kelsey was mad because he wasn't in the game. And I know a fumble happened and they were upset they didn't punch it in, but he was basically complaining, I'm not getting playing time. I'm not in the game. Why am I not in the game?
Yes.
Yes. Not a good look at all.
And I thought Andy Reid played it off in all the post games. He said, "Oh, I came over," or Travis said, "Oh, I came over to tell him I love him." And Andy's like, "Oh, he keeps me young," and all this stuff. I get it, dude. If you and I start punching each other, we'd have a One-Berg problem. It's a brand problem. The NFL went about every single way to make sure these things didn't happen, and they almost got out of it. But just like everything else, everything becomes a meme. It's just a moment in history, and they move on as Super Bowl champs.
There were some good memes on One-Berg this past week in reference and showing Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, Kelce yelling at Reid. So some good stuff out there. Nice job. Patrick Mahomes, another MVP performance, 34-46, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, the game-winning touchdown to Hardman in the end zone in overtime to win it. You know, as soon as I felt like the 49ers had complete control of this football game until the third quarter when they were receiving the punt and they fumbled the ball back to Kansas City. They gave the Chiefs life. And I said to my 2 sons, I'm watching the game with Ryan and Brendan, and I said, Kansas City's going to now win this game. They said, Dad, get out of here. Like, this has been the Niners game so far. I said, nope. Yeah. They opened up the door. This is Bill Belichick, Tom Brady, Patriots of the last 20 years rewritten again. You open a door, and the GOATs, and Patrick Mahomes, a GOAT, he's going to take advantage of that, and it ultimately led them back to a Super Bowl victory.
Well, and also remember, Kansas City, that happened in the first quarter when they were on the drive. It happened early to them, and they got kind of their act together, right? It was the 49ers gave them everything they could in that first half, including stripping that ball. I agree with you. That punt fumble, the part that I was confused about was it looked like the one part of everybody's game, both San Francisco and Kansas City, was we're going to come out balls out on like wrecking balls on special teams. These hits against those receivers, they were hardcore hits, man. I was just surprised. Our old boy Ray McLeod, that ball hit off that guy's foot. That was unfortunate. It was just those 2 moments that really changed the game for them. And I was just surprised. I thought with the way that they were flying, both teams, that special teams on the receiving end were going to tell their guys, back off. This is we don't want to make a mistake, and they did.
How about this little hometown tidbit for you? Justin Watson, the wide receiver for Kansas City, he is a Bridgeville native, went to South Fayette High School. He has now won 3 Super Bowl rings, 1 with Tampa Bay and now 2 with Kansas City. The hometown kid getting it done. And he actually came up in the Super Bowl with 2 catches for 54 yards this past week as well. But will
he have to wait in line at the new Cane's drive-thru for chicken?
No.
He should have a pass at Cane's in Bridgeville to go ahead of the line at all times.
Just show that ring. Show that Super Bowl ring, baby. They'll let you right through. They'll get you all 3 of them. They'll give you all the chicken fingers you want, and then South Fayette there in Bridgeville.
Oh yeah, South Fayette's got a lot of pride, man. They used to be the little green machine back in the day. The band was their big thing, and then South Fayette raised all their taxes to compete with Mount Lebanon and Upper St. Clair. Next thing you know, you got a 3-time Super Bowl champ.
I always joke with people, they have a beautiful high school football stadium, might be one of the best in the WPIL, but you don't have to look any further. When you pull up and you go to walk in the stadium, it's an all brick entrance. The entire outside of the high school football stadium is all brick. You don't have to look any further than that, man. That is quite the institution up there at South Fayette.
Yeah, my daughter played softball there in her 7th or 8th grade middle school days. Dude, it's like walking onto Doubleday Field at Cooperstown. Like it's a league of their own. And so they'll be happy. More hardware to South Fayette. South Fayette, the rich keep getting richer.
Exactly.
But good for him. And there was also the guy from New Ken who played is it Miles? What's that dude's name? No, Sky something.
Yes. He played I think from Katanning. from Sky Moore. Sky Moore.
Sky Moore. Yeah.
Actually, I actually did a couple of Sky Moore football games back in the day when he was in the WPIL. So pretty impressive athlete. But yeah, another WPIL.
When you called that game, did you do something like Sky Moore once more Sky?
He does. What a great
name.
Did
you do that?
That's a football name. That's a wide receiver name. That is not
during the games, or you missed opportunity.
Missed opportunities. I did not do that as a or Sky Moore rather. I was going to say is not an inside linebacker name.
No, this dude is a wide receiver.
That guy's wide receiver all day.
Yeah.
Now what is a linebacker name is our guest who's joining us, who has the perfect linebacker name. Brandon Short joining us here on the Black and Gold Three Rivers podcast here on Oneburg. Brandon, good afternoon. Welcome aboard. We're glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here with you today.
Brandon, this is super exciting for me. My grandfather, Bill, was a 50-year Golden Panther. He would hate that I'm talking to you today, but he also would be super excited. You're a great guy and tons of success. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And you're in London, are you?
I'm not in London. I'm in North Jersey, in Edgewater, New Jersey. I lived in London, lived in Dubai for 4 years, London for 6 years, and came back to the U.S. in the middle of the pandemic in 2021, and been living in North Jersey, outside of New York, ever since, where I was a Giant.
Wow. Well, we're happy to have you on today because what a unique perspective coming off the Super Bowl on Sunday. I mean, you're a guy who's lived it and breathed it, made it to the promised land, right? How big of a difference is a regular playoff game, a regular season game compared to the Super Bowl?
There is nothing that I can imagine that matches the magnitude, of the Super Bowl. I mean, it is literally an opportunity at mortality. If you wake up and you win that game the next day, you'll be a part of the history, and no one can ever, take it from you. Leading up to the game, you try to treat it just like every other game. You try to control everything that you can in terms of your diet, your schedule, and try to keep everything under control. But the reality is that there's nothing like it, which is why you see dynasties you see Mahomes and the Chiefs, winning 3 Super Bowls, and you see the Patriots, they win because they've been there before. They know the process. They know how to win.
So you're saying that process is so just such an earthquake to your routine as an athlete that it becomes more of a mental obstacle more than anything else?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that athletes are routine oriented. The reason why, I knock on the top of my door before every Penn State game because we've won every game, we do that. When you play a sport, there's so many things that are out of your control, and you do everything in your possible to maintain that control. So when you don't know, media day, how that's going to go, you don't know what to expect, or if you don't know what to expect with curfew, okay, what's your schedule going to be like? Is that going to be different than any other game? That gives you an advantage. A team that knows that and it has that experience has a decided advantage over a team that doesn't, because that's just one less thing they have to think about.
And it's got to be insane, right? When you were there with the Giants, I mean, that was pre-social media, pre-24-hour access, all of that. That has to play something into this now that there's so many more pitfalls that you can run into, and the whole world sees them.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have made it nowadays. I'm glad they didn't have these cameras. Thank goodness. For me and a bunch of people that came up in my era, we're still here. Thank goodness. But yeah, the guys have to deal with so much more. The criticism that they face is at a heightened level. The scrutiny that they face is just significant, and dealing with the social media and dealing with all the other elements that are outside forces. It can be distracting from the game, and the people that have the mental toughness to deal with it the best are the ones that win.
Wow. And there has to be a level, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been down that road. Like you said, media day, it's almost like it seems to me like it's an out-of-body experience, right? There's a level of goofiness to it that doesn't make any sense. It's got to be bizarre.
Yeah. Well, playing in New York, like fortunately, I've dealt with the media and had an opportunity to be on a big stage. But the Super Bowl, there was nothing like it. There were reporters from all over the world, fashion reporters that were there that don't cover anything about football, but just wanted to know about the halftime show. So it's a different level, and it's great. I mean, it's amazing to see how the game has grown, how they've grown the audience, the fan base. I mean, it has gotten better.
Hey, Brandon, Ed Troup here. Again, we're really happy to have you here on the show to talk about your football career. You grew up in McKeesport, went to McKeesport High School. I'm a Mon Valley guy too. I'm from Bell Vernon, a little bit further down the Mon River, but McKeesport, Bell Vernon, not too far from each other. I've had an opportunity to cover the WPIL football since 1999, so I just missed you at McKeesport. But McKeesport has had a really good athletic programs over the year, not just when you were there, but since. Talk about your upbringing in McKeesport and what eventually got you to Happy Valley.
Well, I mean, the McKeesport, like most places in the Mon Valley, they have challenging economic environment. There isn't much opportunity, and one of the ways that many young people see to make it out is to get a scholarship to play sports. And like at least specifically at McKeesport and all the areas around, like Rankin, Penn Hills, the whole Claret, the whole surrounding area, it starts with Pop Warner. It starts with little kids, having that dream, playing Pop Warner, getting their first experience in sports, and and following the path on through high school, and hopefully doing well enough, to get to college. For me, like I was, fortunate enough I wasn't very good when I started playing for football. I was actually 180 pounds, when I was 10 years old. And there's an old story that I always tell, that like kids, it's not where you start, it's where you finish. My nickname was actually Heavy when I started playing.
Wow.
And I was overweight, and the weight limit for the team that I was supposed to be on was 135, and I was 185 pounds. So my first year playing football, I was literally the water boy because I couldn't make the weight, and I practiced every week, didn't make the weight. And then the next year was 7th and 8th grade, where there was no weight limit. And then I wasn't a star at that point either, but I could stretch and made it. But fortunately did well enough to get a scholarship to Penn State, and the rest, and get drafted by the Giants, and the rest is history.
Brandon, what's the difference? What sends Brandon Short to Penn State and not Slippery Rock?
I mean, there's a lot of God-given ability. I've been blessed, but it takes a village. It's more than God-given ability. I mean, it's hard work. It's dedicating yourself to something and waking up every day thinking about that goal. Like we won a state championship in McKeesport as well when I was there, and finished ranked number 5 in the country. And there was a core group of guys that all we did every day from the time that we were in 8th grade is thinking about winning that state championship. And we kept each other out of trouble. We had each other's back. We protected each other. And honestly, a lot of people, gave me opportunities. Maybe he gave me a second chance when I might not have deserved it. So, I'm always, when I try to look at the bright side when I see a kid that may have made a mistake, or you may be going through some challenges, because I wouldn't be where I was today if a lot of people didn't look at me in the same way.
But it's like you're describing like healthy obsession, right?
I don't know how healthy it is. But, you have to just focus on it, think about it every day, and not let anything that you will not be deterred. In your life, there's so many different things that happen to you that they could bring you down, and it can make you not want to wake up and do the right things. And you just have to stay focused and not let those things deter you, and be confident that eventually your hard work will pay off.
Brandon, you had quite the team at Penn State while you were there, specifically on defense. And when I think back during those years, what a 1-2 punch Happy Valley had with you and LeVar Arrington.
Yeah.
The two of you getting to play together. And I remember watching Penn State back then and watching the two of you play and just being how dominant each game was. It was either you or him, it seemed like. They were just blowing up plays or making a play on special teams or defense or something. But talk about those days. And specifically with LeVar.
Oh man, like well, it was a 1-2-3 punch. Courtney Brown was the #1 pick in the draft too.
That's right. It was on the Cleveland Browns, right?
Yeah, we had a bunch of guys, but like LeVar is like he is my brother. You know, he's the brother that I've chosen. You know, we had a great rivalry. You know, growing up, I actually met LeVar when I was 13 years old at a Harmerville Hoops Classic basketball game where it was a 3-on-3 tournament. And he was actually 2 years younger, just going up dunking on people. And like our group thought that, like, wait a minute, there's no way that those dudes are in our age bracket. And he was actually younger than us. Of course, we won the 3-on-3 tournament.
Yeah. Wow, what a shock.
But that next year, LeVar, his team, like North Hills, his freshman year, went on, like, played us in football and beat us the second game and went on to win the state championship in football. The following year, we saw him at another basketball tournament, and we won the tournament. He was on his way to a prom, and we showed him our trophies for winning this basketball tournament, and he pulls over and flashes his state championship ring at us. I mean, it was one of the biggest burns I've ever received. And me and that same group of guys, like, watch, we're going to win it next year. We're going to win it next year. And you know what? McKeesport won a state title the next year. And then I went on. Go ahead.
Healthy obsession, right?
Healthy obsession. But then went on to Penn State, like worked on recruiting LeVar into Penn State, and it was amazing. His talent was I don't think I've ever played with someone that had the athletic ability that LeVar Arrington did. He could do things that other people just couldn't do.
Brandon, what about, and kind of going back to that media day circus, you're at McKeesport, you have a ton of success, everyone's looking at you for sure, no doubt about it. But that's a small town in a small city. You get to Penn State, Saturday night, whiteout, Ohio State. How do you keep your emotions in check at that moment? I mean, that has to be an out-of-body experience.
It is. And to the point that I made earlier, though, it's about your preparation. It's like that you've done so much that down to every detail, that like studying tape, that when that time comes, it's just time to let go. There's nothing else. There's nothing else to thinking about, nothing else to do. You just react and go get it. And you try not to let your emotions take control. You use that emotion to for a positive, but you have to be sharp and keep everybody else together and go out and so you can have the best outcome for your team.
Brandon, one of my favorite questions I love to ask you guys that played in the NFL and at a high level in college is, it's a two-part question. One is, who was the best offensive player that you faced? And then the second part of that is, who was the best player that you ever had on one of your teams, in your opinion? I'm going to put you on the spot. I'll let you think for a minute if you need to.
I mean, it feels like a cop-out to say Tom Brady, right? I mean, Tom Brady is like, on paper, by far the best offensive player that I've played against. There's no doubt about it. But on tape, at least it sounds like it's an odd name, but Amon Green. I remember seeing, like, there was a year when he was at Green Bay, and maybe it was just the tape that we looked at leading up to that game, that he was actually a beast. I mean, there's so many names. Curtis Martin, that's who. We played the Jets, every year, at least in the preseason, and looking at Curtis Martin on tape, Curtis Martin was unreal. I mean, he has that gold jacket, for a reason.
He made you feel heavy again?
What's that?
He made you feel heavy again?
Oh yeah.
You made a lot of people feel heavy, huh?
And I guess the best player I've played with, And I feel bad because there's so many other players that, I could think of like Steve Smith, Shockey, Kerry Collins, but it's Michael Strahan. It has to be Michael Strahan. Like Strahan wasn't very fast. He's not like what you think of a typical edge rusher. And he has massive game strength, but it's not like he had like a 600-pound bench press. He would dissect an offensive line with technique. I mean, he would just go up and boom, 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 sack. But like his hands, his body language, and leverage, and just like dominate. And I was on a team when he broke the sack record, and watching it every week, watching it double and triple teamed and still just get sack after sack after sack was unreal.
What was your take on the Super Bowl on Sunday? Mahomes, Purdy, did it get you excited, or was this just another day?
It all gets me excited, man. If I could still play, I'd still be playing. I'd probably take 5 hard steps and fall down and can't get up again, but I would love to be out there. It was a fantastic game. I mean, it was everything that anybody could have wanted. I mean, it was a Super Bowl game that had the 2 best teams in football that went into overtime. And it came down, to the current, best player in the league going down the field and winning the game with a game-winning touchdown, like everybody in the world expected him to do.
Well, what do you make on prep, though, is from behind the scenes, you talk about being there and in the moment and every detail matters. There's people from Stanford, there's players from the 49ers that now say they didn't understand how the overtime rules work. Is that a cop-out? Is that real? Or there's not somebody on that team who says, let's talk about the 10 crazy things that might happen so we know what we'll do?
I mean, it comes down where you said being obsessed with every detail. I mean, there's no doubt Bill Belichick they would have known the overtime rules because he's been there before, and he's not thinking about the on the surface schedule and how to manage that. He's thinking about the out of box things that are going to give your team the advantage. And I'll have to admit, I didn't know the Super Bowl. I didn't know that the rules changed, but I'm not coaching in the Super Bowl either. And that's like, that's, I mean, Kyle Shanahan did a great job. That staff did a great job getting him in that position, but that's on them. I mean, they should have known those rules.
No doubt.
Yeah, still can't believe they took the ball in that situation, and I'll play defense first, and then what you have to do on offense when you get the ball back. You're guaranteed a possession in overtime either way.
You decline. You want to see what happens, so you have the benefit of information. That first drive, whether they score a touchdown or not, you're getting the ball. If they score a field goal, you're getting the ball. If you stop them, you're getting the ball. So I mean, it's clear that was. I mean, look, who knows? No, I don't. You can't misjudge. Like, we are playing Monday morning quarterback. That's exactly what we're doing. But I would have deferred.
And that fourth down is a mistress for that first team, where it's not for the second. The whole thing is kind of wild. It's hard to believe also, Mahomes said he would have went for 2 to try to win the game. So as a Monday morning quarterback themselves, who knows what's true and what's not.
Yeah, all is true is that those folks in Kansas City are lifting up another trophy, and it looks like they got a shot to get a few more.
Well, let me ask you both this. That's a good segue. Patrick Mahomes now has 3 Super Bowl titles, and he's 28 years old, I believe. Brady got 7. He played till he was 45. So if you're going based on at least that would mean that Patrick Mahomes has 17 more years to at least get 4 more Super Bowls. That's a long time, and on the surface you think to yourself, man, it's hard just to get to a Super Bowl, let alone win 1, let alone win 4 or 7. But man, Patrick Mahomes, he just has that ability and that look, doesn't he?
Oh man, the sky's the limit for Patrick. But there's a question in that scenario you just laid out. Though you're assuming that he's on that TB12 diet. I mean, Tom Brady didn't eat like tomatoes. He had like his blood taken and vitamin. I wish I would have known all that he knew and all the things that he was doing at that time, or I might still be playing, or would have been playing for another 10 years. So you got to assume that Mahomes will play that long. Like Brady played like through, he could have played against, we got drafted the same year as I did. He was the captain of Michigan and I was the captain at Penn State, knew him very well. We actually went to work out together before the draft in New Orleans and prepared for the draft together. But he played with me, but he could have easily played with my daughter or my son.
Well, what's you saw him in action. I mean, the diet, I guess, and the diet to keep him in the end. What was the difference when you looked at him and you were like, this is something?
When you mean at what point?
Well, you knew him at a college level, right? As you became pros together, did you see it then, or was that something you think he learned, or was it something you learned?
Look, I'd be making it up if I said I saw it. Like, Tom was unathletic. He couldn't run. He wasn't very fast. His arm it didn't seem like it wasn't like he didn't have massive arm strength when we were like working out together. But what he did have is use like a Joe Paterno term is moxie. Like, just being around him and being with him, like you wanted to play with him and for him, and you knew that he would do the same for you. He just had an aura about like his confidence and the way he carried himself. But looking at it from a talent perspective coming out, he was a 6th-round draft pick for a reason. Because but what he had was the intangibles that you can't teach, which is greatness.
Yeah. That is amazing. Hey, Brandon, I know we have you for a limited time, and we appreciate you joining us today. Give us a little info and the Oneburg Nation of watching, tuning in on your gala that's coming up in only a few weeks, right?
It's actually going to be coming up in June 7th. And there's some time.
You went to Penn State. You're smart.
It's for the Carly Short Better Tomorrow Foundation. It's a foundation that we formed to support students that are being affected by gun violence. We provide scholarships and we provide mental health and the mentorships that these students need. Gun violence is rampant across America, and like when we say affected, I mean, you could have seen it, you could have heard it, or you could have had a family member affected. And I'm a member of Penn State's Board of Trustees, and I see the importance of education and giving people upward mobility. And kids that have gone through gun violence have a much more difficult road. And we formed a foundation to try to go reach back and to give to those kids. And normally it's a great time. Like a few years we've had like Curtis Martin has been there, LeVar Arrington has been there, Spice Adams has been the MC. We have the Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis as a speaker. For a sports fan, it will be a great star-studded night. And we appreciate all the support that anyone can give, and we'd love for you to come on out.
Brandon Short, thank you. Well, I guess the final question is, you mentioned LeVar will be there. If you guys take your jackets off, you're in your suits, I know you'll be in your loafers. Who wins in the 40-yard dash competition today?
Hands down, LeVar. Actually, you know what? He would have beat me when we were young. I don't know about today. I think I'm
you burn him today, right?
But right now, I might get him. But we probably both need to go to the hospital. I can get a win, but I don't know what the results of that win would be. It would be me being in the ER somewhere.
Yeah. Wouldn't be worth it. Brandon, thank you so much for your time. We'll like to talk to you again, and we'll see you for the event in June.
All right, thanks a lot.
All right,
Brandon. Have a great day.
Brandon. Brandon Short from New Jersey, Ed. He was heavy when he was a kid. Well, the difference is I was skinny as a kid, and now look at him and look at me.
Exactly. Look at it. It all comes full circle, my friend. It all comes full circle. Great guy. Loved hearing about his McKeesport and Penn State days, his New York Giant days. What a great story to come from, a tough area of McKeesport and work your way out of those situations and make it all the way. And not just on the field, but off the field too, man. He's been very successful in the business community, post NFL career. He's done very well for himself, and glad to have Brandon on today.
And, you get caught up in fandom, right? My grandfather raised me a Pitt Panther. So we hate Penn State, right? But right. And as a Steeler fan, you'd root against the Giants, obviously, right? I mean, never would we say, oh, we're Giants fans. But it is cool to put all that aside to talk to these guys who have been there, who have done it, got their experience, because it is so unique. Just when you think about the odds that Brandon Short fought against, as he talked about the obsession, the odds to make it to where he is are astronomical, from who your coach is to how your arms are built to your, can you read? Can you jump? Can you do anything? Do you make it to practice in time where the one kid who was playing left and it's astronomical to think how to get to that level. So it's really cool to get some of that perspective, I think.
Yeah, great. Some great stories with his days with LeVar Arrington too. I really enjoyed that part of it. I'd forgotten about Courtney Brown being on that team too. He was the first overall pick of the Cleveland Browns, I believe, there back in the day.
Dude, that Nittany Lion team was insane.
It was. They had Kerry. We didn't even talk about the offense. Kerry Collins, Kajana Carter, all those guys. And I'm not even a Penn State fan. And that's coming from a non-Penn State fan that knows all those guys.
Right. So, and then, the only thing that I kept thinking about when he was saying about LeVar Arrington was Fedco back in the day, where he'd go, LeVar, superstar Arrington.
We gotta get Fetco here on the program one of these weeks. We got to work on that. We got to get our producers to get him lined up. He would be good on here to talk to. So, well, that's going to do it for our Black and Gold Three Rivers podcast for today. Brian, anything to promote coming up on Oneberg this week before we sign off?
Yeah, we're going to post something later today that I think people should know about. It's an article at oneberg.com entitled, "Is the Mon Incline the Scariest Ride in Pittsburgh?"
It was closed, right?
It was closed for the entire month of January. It reopened 2 days ago, and it closed yesterday for more electrical problems that the Pittsburgh Regional Transit kind of shoved under the rug. We have an article about it. We're going to start the discussion, and we have a funny graphics from the Oneberg graphic department where we put the Mon Incline on the Steel Phantom tracks, and I'm really happy with it.
I love it, man. Well, and just so we know, the incline show with you is on the Duquesne incline. Yes. So no celebrities, local, Pittsburgh, national, whatever, have ever been in risk on the Duquesne incline.
No, the Duquesne's very proud. There's an old timer over there named Tom who's super nice and talks about what they do is different. It's funny. We should actually try to get like an in-depth report of the feud between the Mon and the Duquesne incline. Right now, the Mon is kind of the Pittsburgh Pirates of inclines. They always have an excuse of why things are going wrong. But yeah, there's no one was hurt in the making of any of these, which we should note. But there are people who are scared to death of these inclines. They closed the Mon incline right at the beginning of the year because it wasn't slowing down when it got to the platform. And then when it got to the platform, it would stop at the wrong spot. It would open and you'd be like looking out like you'd fall.
No thanks.
I don't know how onto 51.
No thanks. I didn't know any of that, but now that I do know it, I will definitely be staying away from the Mon incline. Though I've always been a Duquesne incline guy.
Okay.
It's just easier to get there, park, get on, get off, that type of stuff. If you're looking for that adventure to take a look at our awesome city. So very good, my friend. Well, that'll do it for this week's broadcast of the Oneberg Black and Gold Three Rivers podcast. We still got to work on shortening up that title, huh? Too long.
Even too many letters to like make it be like, thanks for watching
the
O B B and G T R
O U P.
Are you down with T R O U P? Yeah, you know me.
You know me.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week here on the Big Show, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week.